Hi everyone, how are you guys?
Said,
Yes.
So, without further ado, I want to introduce our host today. So, we're super excited to welcome Evie Chen. She's a venture strategist and entrepreneur with a wealth of experience in consumer behavior, CPG, and emerging technologies. She's a graduate from the prestigious MIT Sloan Management School, and she's based out of New York, similar to me. Evie is the founder of North America's first cold brew iced tea brand, demonstrating her exceptional ability to innovate and scale businesses. So she brings a lot of knowledge to this to share with you guys. She's a really cool product that she's also gonna be talking about as well. And Evie combines her entrepreneurial journey with her expertise in strategy and innovation to help businesses and investors to navigate the intersections of technology, economics, and marketing. She's passionate about inspiring and equipping the next generation, which is you guys, of leaders to drive purpose alongside profit. So, guys, without further ado, everyone, can we give a little round of applause? Throw some energy in the room. Let's give it up. Let's all welcome Evie Chan. Evie Chan, would you come and join us, please?
hey guys, good morning. How are you?
Good, how about you? Uh,
I'm
Great.
well. Like Brian said, it's getting pretty cold here in New York City. So I'm a little jealous hearing that you guys are nice and warm. While my apartment here in New York City is very typical, it does not have any heat. So beautiful mo morning with a very cold room. Yeah. So shall
Awesome.
we talk about social entrepreneurship? Do we know what that is? Because it's a very broad term. Can we throw in some answers into the chat box of what do you think about when we say entrepreneurship? Am I seeing answers? NGOs. What else? Social entrepreneurship. If it's a blank, you can just put in a zero. If you don't know what it is, just put in a zero.
And let's be open to making mistakes. Entrepreneurship is all about making mistakes. I want to see everyone in the chat box just throw some guesses in there.
Okay, we have some really good answers here. We say there's NGO, there is entrepreneurship that gives back to society, it's startups, adaptation center, lemonade stand, product. Okay, all those are really good answers. Some don't know, that's fine. That is also why I'm asking this question, because social entrepreneurship is so broad. And let me contribute a little bit on how I look at what social entrepreneurship is. And again, it's going to depend on people's background and their context, okay? So to me, social entrepreneurship simply means doing something in the public eye that inspires. That's how I look at it. It's when you are an entrepreneur, when you have the eyes of media, of universities, of platforms like this, have the opportunity to talk to people all the way across the world, you get an opportunity to really influence their lives, how they think about things moving forward, how they view their life's plan, and how they think about their life's work. And to me, social entrepreneurship is to be able to bring up an idea that is broad enough, yet it's applicable to each one of our lives, and collect a group of minds and skills to get that solved. So let me give you one specific example. So at MIT Sloan, which is the business school of MIT, we are doing a project called the DEI. That's diversity, equity, and inclusivity. What does that mean? It simply means MIT as a school wants to find a way to bring in more people like you guys, which typically might not have applied to the school or don't feel like they fit in. If they didn't reach out to me, I wouldn't have thought that I would make it to the school one day. So they want to work more on that and therefore providing resources, money, right? Grants or knowledge, like professors, classes, or entrepreneurs like me, and other kind of communication methods like emails, blog posts, and so on and so forth to promote the idea that we want to do things a little differently or want to change how the organization is being perceived and run. Therefore, pursuing an idea to MIT. That itself is a kind of social entrepreneurship. You're changing
Hmm.
how things are done a little bit. Brian, what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, no, that great explanation there. We have a few questions. I want to hear from Siri. I see how you had your hand raised first.
Okay, so I just had a question. I actually did something that I kind of think is like into social entrepreneurship, so that's why I wanted to ask about it. So I founded this club called Youth Gamification Club, and we basically create games for environmental education. And though I started as a club, we plan to take it further where we start designing games to sell. So I was wondering if you would think this is like social entrepreneurship.
Oh, 100%. 100%, of course. Right. And I think, frankly, if you take a step back, any one of us that don't come from a traditional background in a way has a sense of doing social entrepreneurship one way or another, right? So 100% it is social entrepreneurship. And it's simply a kind of mindset that you get to talk about it with other people, right? So over the past, I don't know, 15 years, I probably have mentored over a 150 people, but that's another kind, right? So you're simply doing something that inspires the next step. So 100%, what you're doing is 100% social entrepreneurship, in my opinion.
Very cool. I want to hear from one of the persons. Saw Adiraj, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. So, in your MIT journey, like, how long was the journey of the MIT?
It was a grand total of 12 months. And it was very, very intense. And I wish they would have told me about this before I went there. Um, the idea was I was there as a Sloan Fellow. So if you look it up on Wiki, Sloan SLONE Fellow FELLOW. So Sloan Fellows is the program that I participated in, and it's 1 year from start to finish, but you need to finish 2 years worth of school in that 1 year. And I had the special privilege to write a thesis on top of that. So really, your entire time studying at MIT was about 9 months, not counting holidays, and you're taking a master level class. You're starting it and finishing it every 6 weeks. So it was a lot of work, and it was over about a year.
Hmm. Awesome. Any more questions before we move on? All right, let's keep this party going. Such great questions. It's honestly, it's so inspiring to see such like young people so into this and having so many cool ideas and projects they're starting. This is the exact energy we need to lead the next generation. So I'm loving hearing everyone's questions and answers and sharings. I'm gonna pass it over to you, Evie.
So now we've talked about what social entrepreneurship will be. What do you think, in your opinion, what difference could it make? Why would anybody care about it? Meaning, when you say social entrepreneurship, are we allowed to make money from it, for example? Are we allowed to pay ourselves with the proceeds? What do you think? Put it in the chat box. We can also say, if you think it's okay to be paid through social entrepreneurship and make money of it, put 1. If you think it's not okay, put 0. Okay, we have 1 no, we have 5 yeses, 6 yeses. Okay, we have a good amount of people who think that you can profit from social entrepreneurship. Can somebody raise their hand and tell me why they think that and walk me through their thinking process? Brian, your call. Calling.
See, we've got Aditi, you got your hand raised. Did you want to walk through your thinking process for us?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, personally, we're doing social entrepreneurship to make a positive change, to do something that helps people. And in today's world, it's not sustainable to run something out of your own pocket, especially if it's something where you want to scale it up really big. So I think inevitably you would have to make money somehow.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Any other perspectives?
Let's hear from Shubha. Shubha.
Yeah, it was right. I just thought development is needed, and whenever there is better choices, people will shift their needs. So we might make profit out of it.
Okay.
Nice. I would love if we could hear from a few of the new kids, maybe Zion or Vanya, any of the new people joining us today who's feeling brave. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet want to? How about anybody? I'll throw this to the whole room. Anyone want to try it out? Lipsa, would you anything? Oh, we got Siri. We got Siri. Yes, Siri.
So I think that it's a really great idea because there might be someone who wants to like do something to help society, but they might not have like a capital to depend on. So earning money through the venture is totally ethical in my opinion.
Hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about this because there are different opinions around this issue. Let's just call it very plainly. In general, there's for-profit organizations, there are nonprofit organizations, right? But what is one thing both types of company have a commonality to? Capital in terms of human labor, correct? We all need to put in the time, the effort. We all need to give some kind of attention to an issue and work with a team to get this stuff figured out. So anytime that there is human labor involved, it is only fair that you're compensated for it, one way or another. If you choose not to, that's a very different story. If you feel good about doing it and you're in a point in your life where giving away an hour or 2 hours won't cost you a lot of things, then totally okay. I do pay unpaid things all the time. But if you're running a venture, that means you're not just solving one problem, you're likely identifying a piece of that problem and trying to find out who else within this realm of work are also doing the same thing, collaborating, and try to find a efficient way to push this process and this problem forward. So in my opinion, if you are starting a social entrepreneurship club or initiative or everything else, it is okay to think about money and how you're going to be profitable. And you don't need to be making a lot of money, but if you can make a living, maybe it's not an amazingly luxury living, but if you can make a living by establishing a business that solves social problems at the same time, it's a profitable business. That is an amazing accomplishment by itself, and not a lot of people get to do it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Shubha, we had a question.
Yeah, like social entrepreneurship, I think for a very long time we've thought entrepreneurs is something individual or only a person is growing. Or at least that's what I thought. But when I started learning about social entrepreneurships or where entrepreneurial ideas are helping society, I think it will also have much more time or presence in market or in the world when society, when large group is making benefit out of it. So I think it will have profit.
I appreciate the perspective. Anybody else?
Saw somebody had their hand risen a moment ago. Anyone else? Avani, did you have a question?
No, not
Uh,
me.
no, you. Shivasta.
Yeah. First of all, good morning, Mrs. Chen. Huge
Yeah.
fan of, I really look up to your work.
Oh, thank you.
My question is that, according to you, why do you think social entrepreneurship is a necessity? Because you heard our opinions. We would like to hear yours for a change.
That is such a good question. Why does it matter? Um, it's an amazing question. Let me think about how to place this in the order of words that make sense. So this is my way of thinking about this. I have achieved some things that I would have never thought that I would achieve. Not because I worked really hard, not because I was at the right place at the right time. It was because people that came before me, those are my ancestors, those were other leaders, those are other people who are in different places. They have made the choices to sacrifice and make a choice to push me forward. So, for example, my own family, we don't come from any money, but every single time their decision is to invest in education. So they gave everything they could to put me in the place, to give me an opportunity, to give me a chance. Why do I say that? I grew up in a seaside town in China, and I did not fit in since I was a very little girl. I always had ideas. I wanted to know why adults were doing things the way they did. If they didn't make sense, I wanted to talk about it and see if I can figure it out a better way to do it. And that, I'm sure you guys know this by being in school, doesn't go very well with teachers. And many of you might have experienced something like this one way or another. So by the time I was 13, 14, my parents thought that if I were to stay in the country, I would have no future because my personality, because the way I looked at things. So they figured they would give me everything they could provide for a chance to be educated. So I ended up on TV. My parents were journalists, so they were traveling the country, and I'll fill in when they don't have enough people to be in front of the cameras. So I was in front of cameras doing reporting since I was a very little person. And it just happened that the headmaster from a very fancy Swiss boarding school, he was in China scouting for talent. And he saw me on TV and was completely amazed by the fact that I was actually speaking English on TV, even though very broken English. Remember, English is not my first language, not even close. And he found my parents and said, "Hey, what do you think about sending your kid to Switzerland with me?" Mind you, my parents have never left the country. They don't know what Europe looks like. They don't know what any of that is. But to them, it gave me the best opportunity to not be stuck in the system. So they allowed me to do that. So I've left home when I was 14, very similar to your ages. And I've made something out of myself because my parents were willing to take that bet, to give me that opportunity. In a way, they've changed my social stance forever, right? Because of those environments, I was able to get access I would never have had access to. In its form, it gives me a social privilege to be able to do anything with a lens of social entrepreneurship. Because anything you can do to help others advance, whether it's open a door, whether it's opening a window, whether it's giving someone an idea, whether it's connecting somebody to the next thing, whether it's to present a story and a picture, all of those are a form of social entrepreneurship. And unless you've seen it, you don't know it can be done. That's why what you're doing is important. Talking about it, be an example of it, help others when you can, doesn't matter how little you have, is in the form of social entrepreneurship mindset. And unless we're willing to give, unless we're willing to take a chance along other people, we don't have a chance fighting against the big capitalism. If money can buy everything, which seems like it can nowadays, right? What are the value that we still hold? Well, that is kindness in a way. So because my ancestor sacrificed, I'm able to be here today. And that took 3 generations, right? And that itself I consider social entrepreneurship.
Wow, what a story. I don't know about you guys, but I was getting goosebumps. I mean, it's so inspiring just to hear that. And for me, when I'm hearing that, it's like one moment can change everything, right? One little opportunity, one person, one moment, one thing could change, set you on a whole new course. And for all those that are listening, you never know what project you helping out, you may be doing something a little extra or collaborating with someone. You never know where that could lead. And it could lead to so many things and literally be a ripple effect that can affect generations and generations. That's really inspiring to hear. I would love to, I know we got a few questions raised. Avani, yes, did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what was your backlog in your entrepreneurship journey? Like a backlog,
What's a backlog?
like any, you said these were all like you didn't think of it, and it was just like it. You didn't think about of these all. Like, what was your like disadvantage or something in your entrepreneurship journey?
Brian, can you help me?
Something you never expected this could happen.
Well, my entire life is pretty much that. Nothing was planned. Because I was not one of those kids that did really, really well in school. I really struggled to figure it out what is the right path for me. So I've explored with a bunch of things. When I was in high school, I wrote to the head of a diplomatic department of a Chinese embassy in Switzerland because I was in Switzerland. And I said to him, it sounds like a good idea to work on world peace. I want to know what your life is like and what your job is like because I think I want to be a diplomat. And this very kind gentleman wrote back to me. I found his email address in the back of his book. He said, you sound like a very bright young lady, and diplomats are extraordinarily boring. We fly to places, we sit down, we have meetings, we have no rights to vote, and we go back and we do it again. And I asked him, what difference do you make in the world then? He said, well, I'm making sure things don't blow up. So that was the end of my aspiration to become a diplomat. So I tried a lot of different things, and just for the sake of trying them out, and entrepreneurship, fortunately or unfortunately, came and found me, right? So I didn't have money. That's number one. How do you become an entrepreneur when you don't have access to capital? That was challenge number one. Number two, what make me believable when I tell people that I'm an entrepreneur? Where do I earn that credibility? Number three, what am I supposed to do? So none of those questions were obvious. And having to figure it out on a day-to-day basis was harder than I would have ever thought. And by making those decisions every day, some are right, some are wrong, looking now from hindsight, but it did lead me to opportunities that I didn't think that would exist, including the reason that MIT got in touch with me was because one of my friends who was also an entrepreneur brought my name up when he was at MIT with the people there. So I think the little things of not knowing lead you down into situations that you didn't even know could exist. And that, frankly, I would say is one of the biggest challenges. You just never know. and you're living with uncertainty. And if you want a more concrete example of a really big challenge that I've experienced in entrepreneurship was when I was raising venture capital. Remember, this was 10 years ago. And all the capitalists were very kind and tell me, oh, I've never seen a CEO like you before, but I did not know that my odds were not great just for the sake that I was in consumer industry. I was very young and I didn't have an Ivy plus league connection. So I think I spoke to over 100 investors, and at the end, I got 6 of them. So that was tremendously difficult.
Wow. I want to piggyback on that, on her taking some action actually led to something. Yes, there was a lot of no's there, but it only took to get that one yes to move forward with things. And at the end of the day, we just need to get that sort of one yes to move to the next thing. And we have something exciting that we're going to be doing today as a group. So I want to segue into creating a project together that we're going to be doing on screen, a social project. Shall we segue into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, guys. How's everyone feeling before we move on? Is everyone feeling good? This is going to be pretty exciting. Do we need a quick
Great.
little stretch? Real quick. Okay, real quick. Just give me one of these. Just give me one of these. These are so important. Let's go off to the right. This is my morning yoga. Let's go off to the left. And just go ahead and just rotate real fast. Rotating to the right. And rotate to the left. All right, cool. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling warmed up. It's a little bit of yoga asana in the morning. Let's pass it over and let's get into the social project. Let's start that.
So if I were to say, okay, folks, MIT is looking at proposals from folks like you guys in the realm of social entrepreneurship to help with discovering more talents from where you're from. And I happen to be in charge of that project. What would you do?
You say that one more time for us. Great
If
question.
if MIT Sloan was to say, hey, Evie, we really want to bring in more entrepreneurs that are not from traditional backgrounds, and they're looking specifically in India today, and tell me you are in charge. You can get proposals from whoever, whenever, however. I want you guys to come up with a very short proposal for me so I can bring it back to MIT and say, this is how we discover youth entrepreneurs from India to perhaps be able to go to MIT one day. What do you think?
Let's take a moment for everyone. Take a moment. We're going to discuss as a group. We got a few hands raised. Let's see who we got. I'm seeing Srivasta.
Yeah, actually, I have a small question. When you said about the proposal, do we have to like make a talk about a prototype, product in general, or
It could be a
how is it?
service, it could be a project, it could be a club, it could be an event. I don't want your mind to get stuck in product, right? What are the best ways to
Right.
attract talent? Who do you think in your life has the ability and potential, yourself included, don't forget that has the ability to take an opportunity from MIT and make something amazing out of it? How would you get to them?